Well, some of you know I've been doing my Star Trek rewatch. That's right, the rewatch of Popspectives, Star Trek, the original series. I'm watching in production order based on some feedback from some great folks, and this will be on Where No Man Has Gone Before, sort of the second pilot. So, before I get too far into this, I do want to say I didn't really know this, but I kind of stumbled across it in looking at this episode's background a little bit. How we have to thank Lucille Ball, of all people, her relationship and her respect for Gene Roddenberry to get this TV series off the ground. Like if it wasn't for her interceding for a second pilot, this never would have gotten done. It would have died. And I'm kind of ignorant about that. I did not know that. So yeah, this is the second pilot, which was moved to episode 3 in sort of like the publishing order, but it does sort of make sense because you kind of go back to the table. Obviously, we recast for the captain and we get Shatner, and I'm spoiled. I'm totally willing to admit that I'm used to Kirk and his demeanor, that cadence, that famous Captain Kirk, the way he talks about every situation. It really actually kind of sets the character apart. Like I think when I was thinking about the first pilot, The Cage, I was thinking how it easily could be just a generic sci-fi program. It didn't feel anything really that unique in his presentation of the captain and all of that, and Spock as well. In this, we really start to see more of a definitive structure as far as what a Vulcan is and dealing with feeling. And that's actually like the first sequence, right? You have a quick little scene of them playing chess, which I think again is this is just fantastic to be able to let's see. Yeah, let's just do that. It is fantastic to be able to see that because it's called back to many times throughout the series and the show. We also get our first look at Scotty. Now, again, we're in the prototype phase where, we don't have the uniforms quite yet. The tunics aren't quite right. The color, the delineation, by departments, things like that are not there. But I do, it was great to see him there. And it was also great to see just, different elements to the show sort of taking shape through the redesign, through the restructuring. The biggest thing right off the back was the voiceover in the introduction. Be able to actually get that. Now, the audio is very sort of distant. It doesn't feel as personal as I remember, of course, but it's still really striking because it puts you in that mindset of going on a journey and an adventure. So, in this case, they are going to come across a situation that's basically going to empower two of the crew members with ESP capabilities. And ESP at this point is a very big catch all term that means a lot of different things. And this is one of the characters that is stricken with this sort of like ESP technology. And Gary Mitchell is a friend of Kirk. There's a psychiatrist that's brought onto the crew as well, her Dr. Daner, played by Sally Kellerman. We'll see her here too. I think that I just pulled up the stills. I didn't have this downloaded. And let me touch on the contact lens. I love the fact that the designer of the contact lenses, who basically took two lenses and they put foil in between them, he wore them himself to make sure they were safe. And yes, they're irritating. They were hard to work with, whatever. But it does at least, again, 1960s, create a really cool effect. And I have to constantly give some creative nods to innovation and the creativity that goes behind television and film, especially in these eras where we didn't have CGI and things like that. So it's fantastic. So anyway, so they believe the Valiant crew has experienced some sort of phenomenon, destroyed their ship on purpose. All these things sort of unpack where we start to see Mitchell experiencing sort of like this hyper ESP. Like, so basically, he's able to consume and devour mass amounts of information, going through different things that the doctor is trying to parse out as well, challenge him on what his sort of like knowledge base and capabilities are. Spock, of course, is extrapolating the exponential potential of that, how it can actually become dangerous, right? It becomes to the point now where everyone else is. I think the line is that we'll be in a room. It's like us being in a room full of white mice. We're such insignificant, and this is sort of like an incredible metaphor for 2024. We talk about AI, that it's all well and good when it's ChatGPT is helping us with outlines or rewrite a resume, or I don't know how to write this business letter, cover letter, whatever. It's a different thing when it continue to self-learn. It can become something that can grow so exponentially. It becomes sort of a difficult thing that we need to sort of, should we pin it in? How do we do that? And here, Kirk is left with that very personal decision because it's one of his closest friends, and they're picking up on little clues with the language from Mitchell. Like, he's first off, he's actually using like psionic powers and things like that, and he sort of kind of like is hinting of that that power is corrupting. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, and you're seeing those things kind of shape out. So Kirk is faced with this dilemma. He has a great conversation with the department and the crew. I'm jumping ahead here with some of these photos, seeing what we got to work from. All right, so the crew's brought in. They sit around a table, and I love the fact that Sulu is in this episode. When they have Sulu talk, by the way, talk about being a little on the nose. The Asian is asked, and he's presenting math. He goes to a very math driven response. It was a little on the nose in some ways. Um, but they're kind of like left with the decision, and Spock is the one who makes a very valid argument of like, he is dangerous, man. We could just, I don't we you know if we're not going to kill him, well, maybe we should just maroon him. There is this little base, and again, this is the contrivances of the plot. Like, the ship has been damaged from this power surge and things like that when it come on board, and then they need to figure out how to repair the ship, and in doing so, there is this little outpost, if you will, that they can go to and do that. And I think that is it was a great way to kind of make things work. We come up with two different. We have a reason to go there, try to fix the ship, and at the same time, we could ditch this problem, not actually have to kill ourselves by putting him on this remote planet of Delta Vega, which of course is very much, for me, a link to the famous Ricardo Montalban episode where we get the introduction to Khan and how he is marooned and banished. And of course, that comes back to haunt Kirk and the crew as well. So now that doesn't play out here because Mitchell's powers are getting out of hand. And even when they're on the planet, um, this is what the planet looks like. This is the crewman Kelso, who is tasked with trying to figure out how to repair the ship, basically. And then his powers are sort of getting out of hand, and he ends up, killing a crewman and going on these long speeches and things like that before you end up with this actual physical battle with Kirk, which is very, very stereotypical. You have the tearing of the shirt and all those kinds of things. I liked it. I thought it was great. Um, I really did. I thought all of this was just sort of like fantastic on the nose Trek. I don't know how this show for people rank among other things. So many of the things are there. We see things getting closer to the Star Trek that we know and love, whether it be uniforms and casts, things like that. We still don't have Bones, of course. We don't still have Uhura and Chekhov and some other. We don't have the uniform designs and color structure the way it evolves. The sideburns are not uniform yet. Like, some are there, but Kirk's are not the diagonal lightning. I don't know. It's like a triangle, right? Um, but let's be honest, Leonard Nimoy. I mean, fighting for Nimoy to be the cast member that they kept and letting the yeoman go is such a saving grace. He is so good uh, as Spock, with his subtle acting capabilities are just extraordinary. So let me see here. Anything else I guess prompts my mind? This is the aftermath after the thing. Again, they do a really great job. This is what you get used to as the structure, and I think this would be a great way as they do a pilot. They would pitch to the studio like, this is how we're going to do this. This is how we're going to narrate through the stories, the different acts and chapters, coming in and out of commercial breaks, things like that. Uh, yeah, that was Nimoy. Yeah. So again, well, I didn't know the phaser rifle was a thing, and then I looked, and I guess this is the only episode that it's in. So I don't know. I don't know why that is, but I guess you don't really need a phaser rifle if you have a proper phaser. So I like the fact that it didn't really harm him. He's already godlike. He's already so super powered. Um, so yeah, this was some really fun stuff. I really did enjoy it, and everything you want is there as far as performances and things like that. Um, yeah, it was. Yeah, yeah. So you guys have to tell me, where does this kind of rank for you as far as ranking all of the original series episodes? The fact that it has grown into almost like an incredible allegory for artificial intelligence or sentient beings is, I mean, obviously it centers more around ESP and powers, which we see in other films, other things like that. You see, like, in some ways it's, the pyrokinetic thing we see in Firestarter and many of the Carrie, things like that. But to have it manifest in the 60s in a science fiction way like this, great commentary, and fantastic. Now, I also want to say, though, it didn't feel as fun and engaging as a studio would want for a pilot. So I can see why, as a pilot, and why they've moved it to episode 2 or 3 in sort of their canonical structure. Because you would want something a little more fun and sort of like riveting for a normie who doesn't like science fiction. Again, we have to remember the era of science fiction at this point is not treated with really any respect whatsoever. So to see a little bit of that, I think would have been, what the studio would have been looking for, and I will assume that's what I'm going to see as I continue to move through what are becoming the first couple episodes that the public got to see on a more broad scale. So anyway, that's my take on it. I love all of your feedback and your thoughts and your input. What I shouldn't do, takeaways, your favorites, comments, things like that. It is really, really fun to revisit a show and see it sort of evolving before our eyes, from just a very raw, visceral concept to a practical pilot and a rollout, and still having a lot of areas that you can grow and improve on. And then as we're going to see how that sort of manifests itself into basically one of the most popular IPs of all time. I am Pops. Thank you, and join me each week as we kind of do one of these and spend some time doing it. Thank you so much. I am Pops.